Hi, this is Mary Jane from Hayes Sewing Machine Company in Wilmington, Delaware. And as part of our creative video series, today I am going to be talking about this quilt behind me that we are referring to as the Ombre Quilt. Ombre is a fabric that is dyed or printed such that it goes from a dark to a light.
Ooh, that's pretty.
So it allows you to create sort of this bargello type of design on the quilt. For this quilt, I use 2 yards of an ombre fabric, and then I use 1 yard of what I am referring to as a focus fabric. The focus fabric, which will appear here in the quilt, should have some pop to it against the ombre. So I've used Kafe in both of these projects that I've done because his designs tend to really stand out. You start by taking your 2-yard piece of ombre fabric and 1 yard of focus fabric, and you cut 2.5-inch strips. Although that is normally a jelly roll type of design when you're using 2.5-inch strips to make a quilt, this one does not work with a jelly roll because you need an ombre. And they typically don't sell ombre one color jelly roll, which is what you will need. Cut out however many you get out of 2 yards. It'll be roughly 28. It might be a little bit more. I used an AccuQuilt, so I did have some waste, but I got approximately 28 strips. And then from your focus fabric, I cut about 7 or 8 strips from the yard. I didn't need the entire yard. Again, it's going to depend if you're cutting or using the AccuQuilt. You take the focus fabric from your 2.5-inch strips. I cut off the selvage at the bottom because I don't need that. The focus fabric only is subcut into 10-inch strips. So my ombre fabric stays length of fabric without the selvage, and the focus fabric gets cut into 10-inch pieces. However many strips you have will dictate how many 10-inch pieces of focus fabric you have. See where I'm going with this? You take a piece of the ombre fabric and sew it to your focus fabric. On this piece of focus fabric, you'll notice I have a bunch of yellow on one end. I do pay attention to the color that the ombre is going to. So I feel like if I put it against the lighter yellow, it's not going to pop as much. So on this piece in particular, I'm going to put it against the darker side. I don't go crazy with the color, but I am mindful of which side is going to which side.
Got it.
I put them together, and with a 1/4-inch seam, let me get my foot control here. I lower my foot and I sew. If I had the foot control in, I would sew faster or at all.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm back in business. Here we go. Now this is where the magic happens. You take the other end of your ombre strip, right sides together.
Oh, so make a big circle.
You're making a circle. So you should have one connected piece.
Got it.
Ta-da! You do that with every ombre strip you have cut. You should attach in a loop a piece of focus fabric. Through the magic of television,
Dun, dun, dun.
you will see that I now have many strips. Go over to your cutting board, cutting mat, and lay out your strips. Keeping in mind that you should have the light colorway on the same side and the dark colorway
Oh,
on the
thank you for saying that, because I might not have paid attention.
Yep. At this point, you also have to decide on the quilt itself, Pam, if you could, yeah, the darkest to the left is to my left, and then I went lighter on the right.
Okay.
Now's the time to decide that. So, I have some of my strips out, and they are all in the right colorway. Grabbing a marking pen. I'm going to start. The first one that I mark with my temporary marking pen, I make 3 inches from the focus fabric.
So you're basically focused on this strip. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go to this strip first.
3 inches.
It's going to be 3 inches.
And you're doing it on the dark side.
I am doing it on the dark side because I want it to look like the sample.
Got it.
I cut where I have marked, and now I lay it out. I go to the next one and I work in 2-inch increments. The first one was 3, so this one is going to be 5.
Oh, I'm so proud of you being able to do that math.
The one that I cut that is 3 inches, I only need a single strip. That's my starter strip.
Got it.
But now I want to mimic on both sides so I can get that movement. So this one's 3, this one's 5, and this one will be 5.
Oh, that's clever.
So you can see I'm getting the
Yeah.
movement in the quilt.
Got
You
it.
do not have to make your Z as drastic with your focus fabric
Sure.
as I do. You can stagger to 1 inch. You could also bring it closer to the center of the strip by cutting this way.
Got it. So it's not, got it. It's more balanced.
Right, so it's more balanced.
As opposed to your focus fabric being on the left.
Right, so I really went with the Z of it all.
Got it.
Some tips for sewing the 2.5-inch strips together. I'm sure that if I was a pattern maker, I would find a way to tell you, oh, you need to cut 5 at the 5-inch and 11 at the 2-inch and blah, 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 blah. I'm not the pattern maker. I'm just telling you how I did it. I work strip by strip by strip when I'm doing this project. And part of the reason is, first off, I don't like to do all that cutting ahead. I like to watch how my Z is getting staggered. But also, when you're sewing 2.5-inch strips, things can get wonky fast. So I like to take my time, sew a strip, iron it, flip it over, sew a strip. Sometimes I'll sew from top to bottom. Sometimes I might sew from here to there.
Got it.
It really helps.
So it doesn't have a slant.
Exactly, because like I said, 2.5 strips, 2.5-inch strips can get real wonky real fast. I just use my 1/4-inch seam allowance and I sew strips together like I normally would. In the real world, I might be, I don't know, pinning it. That doesn't seem to be happening in this world, but you know, in the interest of time. These strips are long.
It's amazing. They're at least 45 inches across, huh?
I know. Plus 10.
Plus that.
All right. So, I have that together. I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to sew the next side.
So you have your pairs.
Yeah. Making sure that I am staggering the right way. Almost done on this strip, and then I'm going to give it a good press. I don't typically worry about whether I'm pressing my seams open. I just sort of let the fabric fall where it wants to fall. And I press away. I gotta do a better job pressing that. So now you can see that I have a nice start on my staggered focus fabric.
Mm-hmm.
This was 3, this is 5, this will be 7. I continue that way until I get to 13. I don't go more than 13 inches off of the focus fabric.
Okay.
There's 13. 13 is my
So
biggest.
that would be the deepest that you go.
Exactly. So this one is 13.
Got it.
And then I go in descending order. So from 13, and I'm going to go 11,
9,
7, 5.
9.
Oh, sorry, 9, 7, 5, 3. You know how I go.
You know how it goes. Fair
That's
enough.
why I do strip by strip. And then you are going to end up with this.
That is stunning.
So that is one whole unit, and then I would go back.
Back up.
And that's how I'm getting my Z's. But if you wanted to do something very simple, this could be a table runner.
That's true.
Yeah,
that would be lovely.
Yeah, I might leave off 2 of the strips to make it a little narrower. But yes, this could be a table runner. You can't really extend the ombre fabric because of the way that it is printed
Yeah.
and for the effect that you want. However, if you did want to make it bigger, all you have to do is make your focus fabric bigger. So instead of cutting
Clever.
it 10 inches,
Yeah.
cut it 12 or cut it 14. I wouldn't go any bigger than 18 inches for your focus fabric because then you sort of lose sight of the movement of the quilt.
Got it.
But this is a technique that you can use and fool around with and come up with many, many variations. I've taught this class a couple times, and you may have seen in our Facebook post, we've had customers come in that have done some really dynamite changes with this technique to make a whole different looking quilt. So that is it, the ombre quilt. I have some notes on the pattern that I'm going to ask Patricia to put in with this video. I don't know if it'll be a link or what it'll be, but so look for my notes there. I'd love to see any combinations that people come up with doing this technique. And also, if you come up with any shortcuts or tips you want to share with me, I'd appreciate hearing from you. Have a great day.